Divine Miracles Unleashed. 7 days of prophetic revelation and supernatural healing await. The village of Larkhill was lit with an otherworldly glow. An omen whispered through the lanes and flower-lined gardens. The church bells rang with fervor, summoning people to a week unlike any other one, filled with heavenly promises and the stirrings of miracles. Ruth, a devoted mother and parishioner, felt the weight of it all on her heart. What if this week brought the answer to her daughter Lucy's suffering? A condition that had boggled the best doctors, shrouded in mystery and despair. The winds carried whispers of hope. Villagers spoke of healed souls, of voices rising like incense amid the sweet aroma of faith. Miraculous stories swept through the market square, painting images of the supernatural. "You saw the blind see last Sunday?" a shopkeeper exclaimed, eyes wide as they demonstrated the joy of seeing light for the first time. Ruth clung to these tales, where faith danced with wonder, wrapping around her motherly heart like a beloved hymn. But as the sun rose higher on day 3, shadows began to creep. Doubts stitched through the hearts of some. What if it's just all wishful thinking? They murmured in hushed tones. Ruth could feel their eyes darting in church, heavy with skepticism. Even her own heart wavered. What if she was clinging to a dream? Her spirit wavered as Lucy's condition grew dire. Desperation gnawed at her, pushing her back to the only thing she knew: prayer. With steadfast determination, Ruth organized a public prayer gathering at the church, a humble sanctuary filled with echoes of song and sacred memories. "Come, seek the Lord with me," she proclaimed, her voice trembling yet firm, vibrating with raw emotion. A bold move, a lifeline thrown to the community to gather as one in unwavering faith. Posters adorned the village, each one whispering the promise of miracles. Yet inside, her heart raced, fearing their doubts might cling to her like shadows. As the day arrived, the church filled with familiar faces, some smiling with hope, others gripping their pews with uncertainty. The air tingled, charged with anticipation. The night fell, and the candlelight flickered like divine fire, illuminating anxious faces. People began to pray, their voices floating toward the heavens in trembling hope. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just then, a low hum filled the church, a warm energy vibrating through the walls. Gasps echoed as flickering lights brightened, illuminating the altar like sunlight spilling through the heavens. The villagers' eyes widened, a shared realization dawning among them. Was this a sign? The candles flared as if touched by celestial hands, shadows morphing into dancing spirits of angels. Faith swept through the congregation like a wildfire, rekindling hope, lifting spirits from the ashes of doubt. Yet, as the moment lingered, Ruth remained on the brink of uncertainty. Could it really be divine intervention, or was it just a fleeting trick of light? The tension hung heavily, a fragile thread poised to snap. The night crept on, the flickering lights slowing to mere whispers. Ruth closed her eyes, heart racing, teetering between hope and despair. This moment felt pivotal. What would the dawn bring for Lucy and the whole village? Would they witness a miracle that could heal not just her daughter, but their wavering belief? The questions swirled like autumn leaves, leaving Ruth longing for an answer as dawn approached. As dawn broke over Larkhill, the sun stretched its golden arms over the sleepy village. Ruth opened her eyes, a heart full of yearning yet tinged with anxiety. She could hear the soft rustle of the leaves and the distant chirping of birds, but amid nature's tranquility, her own heart thundered with unspoken prayers. Would today mark the beginning of healing for Lucy? The morning service was unlike any other. The church, bathed in soft light, was infused with a lingering electricity, a palpable sense of anticipation wrapped around the congregation like a blessing. Ruth took her seat, feeling both comforted and unsettled. Hands clasped tightly in prayer, she tried to cast out the shadows of doubt creeping in again. The pastor's voice rose, steady and filled with warmth. Today, we gather not just for ourselves but to believe in miracles, in the unseen possibilities of God's love. As he spoke, Ruth's mind wandered to her daughter lying in bed, fragile yet brave. Lucy's laughter had once filled their home like sunlight. Now, it was a quiet echo of memories. Ruth's heart ached, yet a flicker of hope ignited within her. She could feel the energy in the room and urging, a call to surrender her burdens to the divine. Villagers began to share their testimonies one by one, voices lifted like fragrant incense. "I was healed from despair," one elderly woman declared, eyes glistening. A young man spoke of his broken leg mending overnight, and a child recounted how he had felt peace rush over him like a gentle tide. Each story fed the flames of faith, weaving a tapestry of belief that drew Ruth in deeper. Then, the pastor invited everyone to the altar, a sacred space to seek healing and to pray for one another. Ruth's heart thumped loudly as she felt the call. Could she do it? Would her fragile hope withstand the weight of the moment? As if sensing her hesitation, she noticed a friendly face nearby Martha, a fellow parishioner and friend. Their eyes met, and Martha smiled gently, as if to say, "Let us do this together." Taking a steadying breath, Ruth stood up. Each step toward the altar felt heavy with significance, reverberating in her soul. As she knelt, she felt the cool wooden surface beneath her, grounding yet inspiring. She closed her eyes tightly, blocking out the noise of the world, surrendering her worries to God. "Lord, hear my plea, heal my child. Let this be our miracle," she whispered, voice breaking yet fervently hopeful. All around her, prayers were rising, some soft, others fervent. The air thickened with sacred energy, like a warm blanket enveloping all who were present. Suddenly, a gentle breeze swept through the church, as if heaven's breath had entered. Ruth opened her eyes in astonishment, catching the pastor raising his hands to the heavens. "Feel his presence. He is here among us." In that moment, Ruth could almost see the walls shimmering. Hope danced like flickering flames, igniting hearts and souls. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mingling with the shared prayers around her. The congregation began to respond audibly, voices melding together in a joyous uproar, filling the sacred space with powerful declarations of faith. But then, as the energy peaked, a hush fell, and an unexpected silence wrapped the church. Ruth's heart sank as she felt an unfathomable sensation, a pull, a challenge to deeper belief. What lay ahead now? Would faith prove mighty, or would they face an unanswered prayer? As she gazed at the altar, a single question resonated within her, echoing the uncertainty of every heart present. What would it take for a miracle to unfold in their midst? Ruth remained at the altar, the weight of silence pressing upon her heart. It felt as if the entire congregation held its breath, caught in a moment thick with expectation. The flickering candles cast shadows that danced across the walls, a reflection of the uncertainty that landed heavily in the air. She could hear her own heartbeat, the loudest sound in a still church. The pastor's voice broke the silence, soft yet profoundly authoritative. "In this moment, we stand at the brink of something extraordinary. It is a time for bravery. You are invited to reach out not just with your hands, but with your hearts." Ruth felt a tug, a rising current of emotion that urged her to press deeper into her faith. The stories shared earlier echoed in her mind, tales of miraculous recoveries and the unforeseen pathways that God had carved through despair. Maybe this was just the beginning. The flicker of hope transformed into a simmering fire within her soul. She turned her gaze towards the faces around her, eyes that brimmed with longing, all waiting for a touch of the divine. Each face seemed to mirror her struggle, their shared humanity weaving them together in a tapestry of trust and vulnerability. Then, in the stillness, a voice rose from the back of the church. It was an elderly man, his voice carrying a timbre of authority seasoned with humility. "I too have waited in the shadows of despair," he began, the authenticity in his voice drawing Ruth's attention. But it was in my darkest hour when I saw the light of Goddess love breaking through. His words rippled through the congregation, lifting the hearts of those present. As he recounted his own journey, a journey littered with pain, yet saturated with miraculous blessings, Ruth felt her spirit soar. He spoke of unanswered prayers turning to revelations, of wounds becoming vessels for healing. "Be patient," he said, his voice now a gentle whisper that seemed to float like a feather in the air. "Miracles often come in ways we don't expect. They might require us to let go, to trust in the divine timing. God's plan is always greater than our own." With every word, Ruth's soul was nourished. She closed her eyes again, wanting to absorb every last drop of encouragement. Suddenly, she felt a warmth radiating through her body, starting at her heart and spreading outward like ripples on a pond. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not just of longing but of transformative realization. She almost whispered it aloud. "Lord, I trust you even through my uncertainty." The tension in the air began to shift as others around her joined in their own vulnerable prayers. Voices rose up again, some timid, others bold, creating a chorus of desires, hopes, and yes, longings surrendered to Goddess will. Then, a gentle light emanated from the altar, breaking through the gloom of the afternoon. It enveloped Ruth like a warm embrace, and she felt herself lifted, surrounded not just by light, but by love. Could this be a sign? Was God showing them that his divine hand was moving? But then, just as quickly as it had come, the light shimmered and faded, leaving behind an electrifying sense of anticipation. Ruth's heart raced with a divine urgency. Quickening footsteps echoed throughout the church as the pastor stepped down, moving closer to her. "There are oppressions to be lifted, burdens to be released," he announced, voice low but filled with authority. "Are you ready to step into freedom?" Ruth's heart danced with the weight of the question. Would she find the strength to fully release her fears and embrace what lay ahead? What awaited her, and each one present, in the days that followed? She felt the winds of change stirring once more, as if to affirm something deeply sacramental was in motion. A miracle was not merely hoped for, it was impending. And as she took a deep breath, standing firm amidst rising prayers, Ruth sensed the truth resonate inside her. Was this the moment everything would shift? The altar pulsed with promise, an invitation to believe in the impossible, and within her, a strength began to awaken. What divine revelations could propel them forward on this path of healing? Would they dare to venture deeper into faith together? As the pastor's words echoed through the church, a hush of expectancy fell upon the assembly. Ruth stood at the altar, a point of focus for the budding hope that filled the room. Nervous yet resilient, she willed herself to breathe deeply, feeling each inhale fill her up with courage. Around her, hands raised high, people began to pray fervently. Voices combined in a symphony of sincerity, harmonizing their hopes and dreams. Each word became a prayer, a lifeline to the heavens. It was as if they were weaving a blanket of faith, each stitch adding to the warmth of their collective yearning for Goddess presence. Ruth opened her eyes, looking towards the front row where an elderly woman sat, her hands clasped tightly as tears slipped down her cheeks. The woman whispered fervent prayers, each syllable dripping with faith. There was something infectious in her earnestness, a reminder that they were not alone in their struggles. "Lord, we are here for you, lead us." The woman's voice trembled, yet it rang with strength. Feeling inspired, Ruth moved to kneel before the altar. She took a moment to envelope herself in the warmth of its presence. As she knelt there, the cool stone of the church floor beneath her gave way to a grounding heaviness, a mortification of spirit that meant only one thing. Transformation was stirring. "Please show me your way," Ruth murmured. "I release all doubts. I need your love to flood my heart, to renew my spirit." The flickering candles danced in response, their golden glow reflecting her own inner turmoil. It was a gentle reminder that in their flickering, they carried the love they had gathered in the light. Each flame symbolized faith, fragile yet fierce, tentative yet unwavering. Suddenly, she felt a hand rest lightly on her shoulder, a comforting presence that pulled her back into the moment. It was the elderly man from earlier, the one who had articulated transformation with such authenticity. "Child, your faith is the beacon," he said softly. "Believe that the change you seek begins within." Ruth looked up, searching his eyes, and found an ocean of wisdom reflected there. In that shared silence, she felt something shift not just in her, but across the congregation. The air thickened with divine expectancy. It felt almost tangible. The pastor resumed speaking, addressing the thrumming hearts of the assembly. "God is stirring in our midst, flowing through us as living water. Trust the process. Let go of your burdens. Allow the Lord to work through you." As he spoke, waves of emotion washed over Ruth. In that moment, she realized faith was not just about waiting for miracles but taking active steps toward them. It was leaning into trust and pushing against the unknown with grace. Others joined her in kneeling, some on the hard pews, others on the floor. There was a connectedness growing stronger, a network of souls all bound by hope. She could hear snippets of confessions and gentle cries for healing. "Restoration, Lord," they called. "Bring healing, Lord." Ruth clutched the altar for support, feeling as if every prayer uttered resonated in her own heart. Her own fears began to uncoil, giving way to a deeper desire for healing. Could this truly be a moment of collective release? Could the heaviness they had carried, like stones in their pockets, finally be cast aside and replaced with the light of divine grace? As she let the warmth envelope her once again, Ruth felt a blissful bliss surge through her body. It was raw and unfiltered, that exhilarating awareness that she was, indeed, in the presence of something greater. This was only the beginning. But as the fervor rose, a question lingered at the edges of her mind. What would it take to not only believe in miracles but to walk boldly into the promise they carried? The winds of change readied to sweep across the congregation once more. As the pastor raised his hands, a palpable surge of energy began to fill the church, and Ruth closed her eyes once more, ready for the unfolding of new revelations. How would they respond when the moment of divine intervention drew near? Would they be equipped to embrace the miraculous awaiting them? The pastor's voice reverberated softly against the walls, a soothing balm to the restless hearts of the gathered souls. As he raised his hands higher, Ruth could feel the current of expectation coursing through the air, electric and invigorating. It was as if the walls themselves breathed in unison with the prayers aspired to the heavens. "Let us prepare our hearts, my beloved congregation. The Lord is unveiling his purposes among us. Trust in his goodness and his timing." His words carried power, and each syllable was a catalyst that stirred her spirit further. Ruth opened her heart wide, yearning to feel the flow of divine love and healing that was promised. In that sacred moment, she noticed a ripple of movement in the pews. A tall man rose, his eyes shining bright as though lit from within. He stepped forward, stepping into the light with a determined stride. "My name is David," he called, his voice steady. "I have carried burdens of shame and sadness for too long. I have doubted, I have wandered, and today, I wish to unburden my heart before the Lord." A murmur of encouragement flowed through the assembly, and Ruth felt her own heart begin to synchronize with his courage. The man sank to his knees, tears cascading down his cheeks, and Ruth felt awash with empathy. "Wouldn't it be beautiful to take such a leap?" The pastor gestured to him, a welcoming smile gracing his face. "You are not alone, brother. We stand with you." One by one, more individuals began to rise. A woman shared of her struggle with illness, a young man of his battle with despair. Each testimony shared became a sacred offering, lifting the collective spirit within the church. "Lord, break our chains," the elderly woman from the front row cried out, her voice carrying the weight of many prayers. "Deliver us from the shadows that bind us." As they began to uplift one another, a wave of unity surged through Ruth. She felt as though the church was morphing into a mighty vessel, ready to embrace the heavy laden and beckon them towards hope. Suddenly, she realized that healing isn't just for individuals. It's woven into community. That connection was their strength. It surged from heart to heart, igniting flickers of faith like wildfire. "Let us raise our hands," the pastor urged, "and receive his blessings together." Ruth lifted her hands high, allowing the warmth of their shared faith to wash over her. She envisioned the prayers spiraling upwards, reaching toward the heavens, fueled by their shared desires. In that moment, she knew she could not contain her own burdens any longer. "Lord, I surrender," she whispered. "Every doubt, every fear, I let them go and embrace your light." As if responding to her plea, a warm breeze swept through the church, fragrant and sweet, as though infused with divine grace. Laughter and tears mingled, and Ruth saw others around her enveloped in joy, spontaneous joy, buoyant and agile. The congregation's voices began to rise in celebration, harmonizing a new song of praise, full of life and possibility. Ruth could feel the urgency in the air, a call to hold on to hope, to prepare for change that would soon envelop them like a new dawn. Yet entwined in her joy was a question that stirred deep within her heart. What would it feel like to walk in that freedom? What kind of courage would it take to follow where he led? As the pastor turned to the congregation, eyes ablaze with fervor, he continued, "We are on the brink of divine transformation. Miracles are near. Are we ready to receive them?" A hush enveloped the moment, as Ruth felt the weight of anticipation settle around her shoulders. The promise of the miraculous awaited them, but could she truly believe it? Would her faith endure the trials ahead? Heaven's grace seemed poised to pour out, and in the stillness, Ruth felt that something wondrous was about to unfold. Would their shared faith be enough to usher in the miracle they prayed for? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to reveal itself. The air in the church shimmered with a palpable energy, each heart echoing the promises of God whispered among them. Ruth felt a powerful connection, not only with those around her but with the very essence of the divine. What started as a gentle yearning within her grew into an urgent flame, consuming every doubt and fear she had ever harbored. As the pastor continued to share, Ruth's spirit soared higher. "Each of us has come here with burdens," he declared, "but with each testimony shared, we're weaving a tapestry of faith, sewn with threads of hope." Every word resonated, as if it were tailor-made for her soul's listening. With every testimony, Ruth's heart broke open more. Each shared story wove a thread of collective experience. They weren't just tales of struggles but testimonies of victory waiting to be claimed. As voices harmonized in a chorus of praise, the walls of the church echoed back their fervor, amplifying their cries to heaven. From the back of the sanctuary, an older gentleman rose, arms trembling as he grasped the edge of the pew. "I have been blind," he began, his voice quivering yet resolute. "Not in sight but in spirit. Today, I ask the Lord to open my eyes." The congregation roared with applause, an electric wave of support radiating through the room. Ruth felt her own spiritual eyes beginning to open. Could it truly be that the same healing is available to me? She pondered, wrestling with the possibilities. The energy swelled as the pastor responded with fervor. "What you witness here, my dear friends, is but a glimpse of God's love. He yearns to touch each of us, to transform our lives completely. Will you let him?" "Yes, Lord." Voices rose in unison, each declaration bouncing off one another like joyful laughter in the breeze. Ruth's heart raced as it dawned on her she did want this. She craved this divine touch that seemed to intertwine their spirits together. Then the pastor instructed, "Let us form a circle. Draw close. We are a family united by faith." Ruth felt hands grasp hers, warm and comforting, and she knew in that moment they were embarking on something sacred. David stood beside her, his face still wet with tears, but now shining with hope. "Let us pray for one another," he said earnestly. "What was once hidden in darkness, let it be revealed in light." As they prayed, Ruth felt the weight of the world fall away. Each word spoken over her felt like gentle rain upon parched soil. She breathed deeply, allowing gratitude to seep into her very being. One by one, they lifted up their prayers, unveiling their pain, their journeys, and their desires. Suddenly, a hush replaced the fervent chatter. An unexpected stillness spread like warm honey, and Ruth felt something change in the atmosphere. She glanced around, bewildered yet expectant. The pastor's face glowed with an otherworldly light. "Take a deep breath, my beloved," he whispered, his voice resonant like the ripples of a calm lake. "God is here. He longs to pour out his spirit upon us." A heavenly song penetrated the silence, not from lips but from the very air around them. Ruth's spirit danced within her chest at the sound, as if she could feel angels rejoicing. "Open your hearts," the pastor encouraged amidst the reverence. "Can you feel his presence? Can you trust him with everything? Let go of fear. Embrace only joy." Ruth, swept away by the wave of faith surrounding her, closed her eyes. She pictured herself standing on a precipice, peering down into an abyss filled with light. "Yes, Lord," she thought, "I trust you. Lead me into freedom. Lead me into light." The pastor continued, placing his hand over his heart. "We will witness miracles today. But remember, faith isn't passive. It's a call to action. It beckons us to step beyond our comfort zones." The very essence of anticipation thickened. The time for the miraculous had come. She could feel it. There was a promise in the air, a divine invitation to believe. Yet, just as that realization washed over her, a new thought uncoiled beneath her skin. What if believing required more than her willingness? What if it demanded an act of surrender? With a heart racing with possibility, Ruth opened her eyes, and she whispered softly, "Lord, show me what it means to step into this grace. Fully show me the extraordinary path you have laid before us." In that moment, she felt the tension shift once more in the atmosphere. A mystery lingered, and she sensed it in her bones. What awaited them just beyond this day, this moment? As silence enveloped them, Ruth's spirit tingled with a palpable hope, beckoning her toward the next chapter of their journey. What miracles loomed on the horizon? What revelations lay just around the corner? She felt the air shift, wondrous and wild, inviting them to step deeper into the unknown. The air around Ruth felt almost electric, charged with expectation. As the silence deepened, she could hear her own heart drumming against her chest, a rhythmic reminder of the life and spirit within her. She felt the hands clasping hers tighten slightly, a fleeting acknowledgement that they were all in this together. The pastor's voice broke through the stillness, powerful yet gentle. "Friends, a new season is upon us. God is here, ready to usher us into realms of his glory we have yet to know." His words resonated, soaring above the doubts that once held Ruth captive. Joy bubbled within her, uncontainable and bright. Let us invite the Spirit to move freely. Let us ask for the miraculous. The congregation echoed back a chorus of amens and praises. They were united, a tapestry woven with unyielding faith. Ruth released a sigh of relief, letting go of every burden she had carried for so long. With her heart vulnerable and open, she could feel God's Spirit envelop her like a warm embrace. She recalled the stories of the faithful, of those who had cried out and experienced the impossible. If God could do it for them, why not her? She felt courage rising, a flame ignited through every prayer and testimony that surrounded her. Let us call upon our God to reveal our heart's desires, speak them into the light, and watch him transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. The pastor urged, eyes scanning over the expectant faces. Ruth's spirit surged with courage. "Lord, I want to see," she whispered fervently. "Show me your ways, bring forth healing where I am broken." As she prayed, David squeezed her hand. "I believe in your destiny, Ruth. We're meant for greater things." His voice, steadfast and reassuring, anchored her spirit amidst the rising wind of faith. Around them, hearts were bared and voices lifted, each prayer a thread binding them tighter in their devotion. The sudden sound of joyful laughter cut through the atmosphere, pulling her attention. A woman near the front stood up, a smile splitting her face. "I just felt a weight lift off my shoulders," she exclaimed, hands raised high. "Thank you, Lord." Applause erupted like a burst of confetti, and Ruth couldn't help but smile. As testimonies poured out, joy mingled with tears. It was a vivid display of God's faithfulness, the light illuminating the darkest corners of their souls. Then, with a solemn hush, the pastor beckoned, "Beloveds, let us not just celebrate the moment, let us ready ourselves for action. Healing flows through us when we give it away. What is God prompting you to do today?" Ruth's heart raced again. What action was asked of her? A part of her felt shaky, hesitant, while another part throbbed with eager anticipation. It wasn't merely enough to receive. There was a stirring within her soul to also give. Perhaps it means sharing this light, she thought, feeling both fearful yet exhilarated. She glanced around at the faces beaming back, an array of stories yet untold, of burdens waiting to be lifted. Suddenly, a young man spoke up. "I'm tired of living in shadows. I want to step into the light." His declaration ignited a fervor, igniting more responses like firecrackers. Ruth felt compelled by the moment. "I too. Let us support each other. Let us break chains together." Those words spilled forth like a waterfall, carrying with them a sense of purpose that felt almost tangible. The pastor lifted his hands. "Then let it be so. Freedom is here. Let us break down those walls and release each other into the grace of God." Courage and joy mixed into a potent balm, enveloping the congregation. Ruth stood taller, heart alight with possibility. She sensed they were on the brink of something monumental. Yet, a lingering question danced just beyond her reach. What healing awaited her not only for herself but for those around her? What steps would she take to embrace fullness in this faith journey? As this puzzling thought hung in the air like a fragrant promise, Ruth felt an ancient truth rise. Faith was not just surrender. It was an invitation to action, to step beyond the familiar into the extraordinary. What divine encounters awaited them next? What transformations would unfold beyond the comfort of their circle of faith? The season of miracles had just begun. And now, Ruth wondered, could she truly prepare her heart for what was to come? Ruth felt a rush of energy coursing through her, as if the very words she uttered had kindled something deep within her spirit. The faces around her shone bright with hope, and that light mirrored in her heart. Together, they had created a sacred moment, an atmosphere thick with possibility. The pastor's voice rang out, igniting a spark within her. "This is just the beginning. God is moving, and He wants to move through us. Who is ready to step into their calling?" Instantly, hands shot up, fingers stretching toward heaven. An army prepared to take on the world. "Yes, Lord," echoed throughout the room, blending seamlessly into a chorus of praise that lifted higher and higher. Her heart raced as she scanned the eager faces. Each one held a promise, a destiny woven by God's own hand. Then, a powerful thought whispered in Ruth's mind. What if I'm meant to lead? What if my voice matters? Each pulse of the question pulled her closer to the edge of a revelation. The risk stirred excitement and trepidation in equal measure. As the service continued, testimonies flowed like a river. One by one, people rose to share their stories of hope, healing, and transformation. A middle-aged man spoke of how his job loss had turned into a divine opportunity for new beginnings. A young mother wept as she recounted her miraculous deliverance from depression. Each word seemed to peel back layers of doubt cloaking Ruth's heart. This was not just a gathering. It was a collective testimony of God's unwavering love. She leaned in closer to David, her friend and anchor. What if we could share our gifts with the world? What if we could encourage others to rise? She whispered with fiery intent. David turned towards her, a smile dancing in his eyes. That's it, Ruth. Sometimes the light shines brightest when shared. We can reach others, maybe even change lives. With renewed determination, Ruth stood, hesitating for just a heartbeat before delivering the words that had burgeoned within her. "Everyone," she called, voice filled with unshakable resolve. "What if we formed small groups? We could come together in prayer, sharing our burdens and breakthroughs." The hall fell silent, then erupted into comments and shouts of agreement. Hearts lifted in unison. The idea had ignited a flame. "Yes, let us gather together and break chains," came a voice from the back. Ruth watched as people began to lean toward one another, exchanging contact information, eyes filled with purpose. It was beautiful chaos, a movement sparked by faith, bubbling into action and creating ripples of hope. Yet, amid the excitement, a weight pressed on Ruth's heart. She sensed a challenge lay ahead. They were stepping into uncharted waters, and there remained questions that thrummed like distant thunder. How would they maintain this energy? Would fears arise? As the service came to a close, the pastor gave a rallying prayer, asking God to strengthen their resolve and guide their steps. Remember, beloveds, our journey doesn't end here. It begins. Be watchful for the miraculous. With those final words hanging in the air, Ruth felt a resolve swell within her. God was calling them into the extraordinary, but she knew they would need to cultivate this flame, nurturing faith through unity, prayers, and proactive steps forward. As she exchanged hugs and goodbyes with friends, hope swelling in her heart, another thought lingered. What challenges would rise in their path, and how would they lean into God amidst uncertainty? The stirring questions wrapped around her heart, inviting her deeper into the adventure. Amidst the jubilance, she sensed the hovering presence of Goddess promise. Their belief could birth a movement, but what divine encounters awaited them in their pursuit? Would they truly see His hand at work in their lives and in the lives of those around them? Ruth stepped outside, feeling the wind on her skin, and she smiled. The world awaited them, and the divine mysteries were just beginning to unfold. As Ruth stepped into the cool evening air, the lingering warmth of fellowship wrapped around her like a comforting shawl. With each breath, she inhaled the scent of rain-soaked earth, a reminder of the new beginnings God was cultivating among them. The dimming sunlight painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, a divine canvas encouraging her spirit. "Ruth," David called as he caught up to her. "You really set things in motion today. I can feel it. Something powerful is happening." Ruth nodded, her heart echoing his enthusiasm. "Feels like a spark, doesn't it? But I can't shake the feeling that we'll need to face challenges head-on." David's expression shifted slightly, now painted with seriousness. "You're right. When you step into new territory, there's always resistance. But the good news is we're not alone. We have each other and, more importantly, God with us." His words resonated within her. The very thought brought forth a longing paired with the kind of peace that cradled her heart. They continued walking, their footsteps rhythmically matching the pulsing anticipation of their future. As they approached the entrance of the church, Ruth caught a glimpse of others gathered in tight circles. Laughter, tears, and earnest conversations mingled in the air. These small groups were more than just a gathering, they were how God would draw them closer. The seeds of community were taking root right before her eyes, and it felt sacred. "Let us make sure we have each other's contact info," she suggested, pulling out her phone. "This is our moment to form connections. We need one another for support and encouragement." David nodded, swiftly joining her. As they moved from one group to another, exchanging numbers and encouraging messages, the joy of shared purpose enveloped them. Here, in these simple interactions, was a foretaste of the divine unity they craved. Later that evening, as Ruth settled into bed, thoughts whirled in her mind like leaves in the wind. She closed her eyes, seeking solace in prayer. "Lord, guide our journey. Give us wisdom to navigate the paths ahead. Help us embrace the challenges as we trust in your promises." Each word fell from her lips like honey, sweet and deliberate, healing the cracks in her spirit. The soft sound of nature outside her window blended with the rustling of dreams, the kind that spark curiosity about God's unfolding plan. In the dark, her thoughts drifted to the encounters they would have, the lives waiting to be touched. But she also couldn't ignore the weight of hesitation that accompanied change. How would they respond when fear crept in? Would they remain steadfast? Morning light broke through her window, illuminating her room in a golden hue, and affirming the promise of a new day. Ruth rose, invigorated, ready to meet whatever God had in store. She felt His call to embrace this journey with open arms, a chance to reflect His light brightly. As the day unfolded, Ruth joined their first small group gathering. Each person arrived with unique stories, filled with burdens and breakthroughs. Together, they shared, prayed, and laid their hearts bare. Through laughter and tears, walls began to crumble. But soon, the atmosphere thickened with tension. A woman named Sarah, visibly shaken, stood to speak. "I need help. I'm scared my past will come back to haunt me." Fear dripped from her voice. The air felt electric, the moment was raw. Ruth sensed this was a turning point. Would they rally around Sarah, embracing her pain with grace? Would they offer healing prayer and truth? Every soul in that room held a piece of the miracle that awaited. The room hummed with anticipation. Ruth's heart raced as she locked eyes with David. They shared an unspoken agreement. "Spirit of God, lead us through this moment." As the group hesitated, gathering strength, Ruth felt the gentle nudging of the Holy Spirit. This was their moment to embody the very hope they had proclaimed. The air pulsed with potential. God was moving, and his plan was unfolding. What would they choose? Would they rise together in faith? Would they bear one another's burdens and witness God's miraculous hand at work? The weight of divine possibility hovered around them, heavy yet hopeful. Ruth stood at the cusp of a new chapter, her heart whispering a prayer for guidance. The raw moment with Sarah pulsed in the air, heavy with expectation. She felt the warmth of hands around her, a circle of solidarity that held the fragile threads of faith. And within that connection, she sensed God's presence, urging her to act. "Sarah," Ruth began softly, her voice steady, "you are not alone. We're all carrying something, and together, we can lift this burden with you." The words flowed naturally, infused with love that bubbled from the depths of her heart. Murmurs of agreement rose up from the group. One voice reached out, "Yes, we stand with you, Sarah." Eyes sparkled with empathy, mirroring the struggles they each faced: financial stress, health issues, spiritual battles. Each story was a reminder that they were stronger together. As Ruth stepped closer to Sarah, she could almost feel the weight of shame and fear lifting. "Let us pray for healing and breakthrough," she urged, gesturing for everyone to join hands. A unified spirit wrapped around them, forming a barrier against the shadow of doubt. "Lord," Ruth said, her voice infused with authority, "we stand as vessels of your grace. We ask for freedom for Sarah. Release her from the chains that bind her. Replace fear with fierce faith." Each word resonated like thunder, a declaration of belief that shook the very roots of their insecurities. The group started to echo her words, a collective symphony of faith rising higher. "Yes, Lord, free us, restore us," they cried, filling the room with prayers drenched in conviction. As they prayed, something beautiful unfolded. A glow of energy began to swirl, filling the space with warmth, a tangible sign of hope. Ruth's heart soared. She could see it in the glances exchanged among the group, renewed determination, sparking courage in their hearts. "Feel that?" David whispered, his voice barely above a murmur but heavy with awe. "God is here." The realization washed over Ruth, igniting her spirit with expectancy. And then, in that sacred moment, it happened. The hesitance that had clouded Sarah's eyes began to lift. A soft smile broke through her tears, illuminating her face like dawn breaking through the darkness. "I feel lighter, I can breathe," she exclaimed, her voice thick with emotion. The congregation erupted in applause, but it was more than that. They were affirming God's movement among them. Laughter danced, mingling with tears, wrapping around each heart in the room as their collective faith released a wave of healing. Ruth understood now. This was what miracles felt like, not just singular moments of divine intervention, but the culmination of lives intertwined in love and hope, a tapestry of faith woven together by human hearts open to God's work. "Let us keep this fire alive," someone shouted amidst the joyous celebration, and Ruth knew the truth of those words. They would go beyond this moment, beyond this small group. They had witnessed his grace, and it had changed them. Days turned into weeks, and they committed to meeting regularly. Each gathering became a beacon and anchor of hope. Ruth witnessed chains break, hearts mend, and identities restored. One by one, they shared their testimonies like fireworks bursting in the night, illuminating their journey, revealing Goddess glory. As the days passed, a quiet confidence blossomed within Ruth. The challenges were still there, some days heavier than others, but the weight felt lighter when shared. The community rallied together, offering prayers, meals, and support through storms and sunny days alike. Ruth learned that vulnerability was a strength, and telling their stories was a way to share God's miraculous deeds. Then came a moment of divine clarity, a realization that they could extend this grace beyond their circle. One Sunday, amid the multicolored autumn leaves swaying in the breeze, Ruth and David gathered a team together, charged with a mission to outreach. Let us impact our community, just like we were once impacted. Let us go to those who feel invisible, she said, energy thrumming in her veins. Together, they organized a week of outreach at the village square. Free groceries, medical checkups, and testimonies, an invitation for healing and connection. On the day it arrived, Larkhill pulsed with excitement. They set up tables, decorated with vibrant flowers and signs of hope. People came, some curious, others hesitant. Yet soon, laughter spilled over, and hands reached out in kindness. Ruth stood at the corner, watching the scene unfold, the atmosphere resonating with joy. This is what we've been called to do, she declared quietly, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. It was evident the ripple they had created would reach far beyond their village. The love, the faith, it would transform lives well into the future. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Ruth knew this was just the beginning. They had ventured into new realms of hope, supporting one another and lifting the community together. Each heart became a vessel of the divine. Within her, a truth settled softly. Miracles weren't limited to grand displays of wonder. They thrived in connection, support, and unwavering faith woven into everyday life. They were manifestations of love in action. In that moment, as she took in the beauty around her, Ruth whispered a heartfelt prayer. Thank you, Lord, for allowing me to be a part of this divine journey. Thank you for transforming not just our lives but others through us. Let us continue to be vessels of healing, hope, and testimony to your faithful heart. She felt peace sweet, indescribable, suffusing her soul with assurance. Larkhill glimmered like a beacon of faith, and she was ready to embrace every step ahead, confident that the best was yet to come. God was indeed on the move. Ruth felt that this was the moment to take action, and as she looked around, vision blazing, she felt an overwhelming urge to compel everyone. You need to subscribe now to witness more transformative stories of faith unfolding in real time. Leave a like never before to fuel our outreach, feeding the algorithm and sharing the gospel. Comment your reactions and testimonies about today's miraculous gathering. Let your voice be heard. And you must share this experience instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience God's miraculous love. Together, let us carry this light into the world. Don't wait even one more second. Act now as true servants of God.